Over the last week, I've done 3 different consultations with 3 people who are in the process of building home gyms. And I found myself having basically the same exact conversation with all 3 of them. And when I thought back over all of the people I've helped build home gyms here at GymCrafter.com, I realized that I've had these conversations a ton. So I figured, hey, if I had to have that conversation with these 3 people, there are probably some of you who would benefit from the same conversation. So let's get this recorded, and we're going to cover that on today's episode of the GymCrafter podcast. Welcome back to the GymCrafter podcast, everybody. My name's Tim. I'm the head gym nerd here at GymCrafter.com, the website that I built to help ordinary folks build home and garage gyms that we absolutely love and actually use. And today we're going to talk specifically about building those gyms. If you like these types of episodes, make sure and hit that like button. If you want to see more of them and you want to catch this podcast every Monday when it comes out, along with the other stuff that I'm releasing every week, make sure and subscribe to the channel. And hey, if I talk about anything that you think will benefit people you know, it's awesome if you share these episodes with those people. But let's get into the show. And I always start with, how is the gym going, right? Like, it seems like the longest garage gym rebuild project in the history of garage gym rebuild projects. Well, I had a month slow down with the paint. As you guys know, if you're not familiar, go back and watch the previous episodes of the podcast. But I had some issues with the paint and some paint fumes. But I'm on to the next steps. Now that the paint has dried and it's not off-gassing and I've got a good air filter, I am on to some more aesthetic changes in the gym. So what I'm planning next in the gym, and follow me over on Instagram, it's just GymCrafter on Instagram. I always put the updates for when I'm doing these types of projects on there, is I'm actually gonna put some LED lighting in here. I'm gonna try and make it not look like a gamer's house, because I'm not a gamer. But if you've noticed in some of the videos I've made, between the bottom of the drywall and my floor, I've got about 6 or 7 inches of this really ugly cement, and then the bottom of the drywall is just gross. And I've been thinking about ways to take care of that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take some LED lighting, I'm gonna put that along the bottom, and then I'm gonna cover that with some wood baseboard. I'm not sure what color I'm gonna paint that yet. But basically my vision, and we'll see if it comes true, is that I'll be able to turn on that lighting and it'll kind of seep out from under the baseboard. I'm not looking for anything too gaudy. I'm just looking for something that will kind of give a nice low level of light around the bottom of the gym. It'll probably always be kept as green, but it'll be cool because it looks like the LED lighting, you can change the color. So that's the first thing I'm doing in the gym. The second thing that I'm doing is I built kind of what I called a mini shed inside of my garage. All that is it's just some shelving units that block off about a little less than a quarter of my garage, and that's where I keep my garage stuff. Well, right now I'm staring at the back of these shelves and it's kind of gross. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some wood and some other cool things. I'll show you when I do it. And I'm going to cover that and I'm going to finish that. And then I'm also going to finish the front wall of the garage in the same material. Hopefully all of that matches the baseboards. And once I do that, I think it's going to look really sharp. So follow me on Instagram. You'll see me as I do that. I'm hoping to get that done in the next week. Now that I can actually spend time in here, now that all of these machines are built, I should be able to get to that. And speaking of all of these machines, last week I touched on the 2 racks that I have in here. For those of you who haven't been following the podcast, I basically am testing 2 different brands of gear right now. I've got RitFit, I've got their kind of cable cross Smith machine rack doodad in here. I've got the same thing from Major Fitness, and then I've got a leg press hack squat combo from both of them. Last week I touched on the racks a little bit. I'm ready to talk a little bit about the leg press machines, and they definitely suit themselves to different customers. First of all, if you are squatting, just barbell back squatting 305 or more, I'm not sure either one of these is going to be great for you. If you're a competitive power lifter, neither one of these is going to be great for you. Now, if you're not those people, and sometimes we get caught up on our own little bubble, especially for the garage gym fans out there, in thinking that, well, everybody can bench this much and everybody can deadlift. As a trainer, I got to tell you, a shockingly small number of people can squat 305. A shockingly small number of people can squat 225 without coaching in 6 months or so of practice usually. So the weight capacity on these is suitable for those folks, for general population people training for just regular general preparedness and fitness. They're both going to be good for that. The Major Fitness, I'm still trying to get an actual answer on the weight capacity. Some reviewers have said it's 400 pounds. It's definitely more than 400 pounds. Their website says the weight bar has a max capacity of 600 pounds. The problem is it has 2 weight bars, so I don't know if that's the weight bars have a total capacity of that. And then when I emailed them, they said that it has a capacity of 600 and some odd kilograms, which when I did the math came out to like 1,300 pounds, which to me seems like a little much for that machine. So, but it's got a decent weight capacity. I'm gonna say it's at least 600 pounds. Between the 2 weight bars, I'm guessing you could probably do more than that. So if that's in the weight range you're looking at, the Major Fitness is the better way to go. The RitFit is much more straightforward. It has 1 weight bar that's underneath. Its max capacity is 500 pounds. I wouldn't put more than 500 pounds on this. 500 pounds isn't a lot for a leg press, but for, like I said, for a lot of people, that'll be just fine. The Major Fitness is huge. It's wide, it's deep, it's tall, which is great for somebody like me. I fit really well on the Major Fitness. I can do the hack squats on there, no problem. I can do the leg presses on there, no problem. I showed in the video that I'm restricted on calf raises, but I would say anybody 6'4" or shorter would be great on that. With the RitFit, not so much. I can't even do hack squats on the RitFit. I can't lock out my knees. I can't even get close to locking out my knees. So I talked to a couple people online who said they were over 6 feet and they can do hack squats on it. But as far as a recommendation goes, if you're over 6 feet, I don't think the RitFit's gonna be suitable for you if you're planning on doing hack squats. If you're doing leg presses, that's fine. There's also not a great way to do calf raises on the RitFit just because of the way that it's designed. Now I'll have a first impressions video coming out soon. You'll see what I'm talking about. There's a couple of ways around that, all of which if your foot slips, you're gonna really hurt yourself. So I don't know that I wanna recommend doing them those ways. So that's really it. The nice thing about the RitFit is it's tiny. If you need a leg press hack squat in your gym and you don't have a lot of room and you don't mind the lower weight capacity, the RitFit's not bad. The only other difference is the RitFit's kind of loud. It's not super smooth. It's got these little mini ball bearing things that roll along the slides. I don't know how long something like that's gonna last, so I don't know that it's gonna take a lot of heavy work. The Major Fitness is super smooth. I would trust that to do a lot more work and last a lot longer. So between the two, if you've got the space, I think the Major Fitness is better if you're in the market for one of these, which is the opposite of what I said on the racks, right? On the racks, I like the RitFit better. I'll talk about all this on future reviews. I don't need to take a ton of time up now, but that is the update on the garage gym here at GymCrafter HQ. Now let's get into today's episode. And like I said, I've talked to several people over the last week about designing garage gyms. And by the way, drop me an email, tim@gymcrafter.com. I do garage gym consults as part of GymCrafter. I'm happy to help you out. Better to contact me before you build your gym, and we'll talk about a few of those reasons why today, than to wait until after you bought something that doesn't fit. Hint, hint, that's gonna be one of the things we're gonna talk about. Feel free to drop me an email, drop me a comment below if you've got a quick question. I'm always happy to answer that stuff out. So, what did I talk about with these folks today? So here's the first thing that I deal with a lot with people who contact me. The first question I ask most people when they contact me about building a home or a garage gym is, why are you building one? And it's interesting because about 75% of those people look at me like they're a deer in the headlights. What do you mean, why? I want to get in shape. Okay, well, what does that mean? How are you getting in shape? Are you looking to get stronger? Are you looking to get bigger? Are you looking to lose weight? Are you looking to increase your endurance? Are you looking to better your conditioning? Do you have a vacation coming up? Like, why are you building a home gym? And I spent a lot of time talking about this in the first episode, so I don't want to rehash it completely here. Go back and watch that first episode. But in short, here's why that's important. You're going to have a really hard time deciding on everything that goes into your garage gym, as well as finding a space for your garage gym, which is episode 2 of the podcast, if you don't know why you're building one in the first place. If you don't have a why that resonates with you, then you're gonna have a hard time knowing what kind of barbell to get, what kind of rack to get. Do you even need a rack? What kind of cardio machine do you need? Do you need a machine? Do you need something? There's all kinds of questions that if you know your why first, you don't need me to do a home gym consult with you. You just need to go, well, I'm building it for this, so that means I need this. So that's the first one. Like I said, go back and watch episode 1 of the podcast. I cover that way in depth there. So check that out. But that's the first thing. The second thing is that people tend to plan the gear before they plan the space, and they don't have a great idea of how much space the gear actually takes up. Let me give you a couple examples. So I mentioned that I've got some Major Fitness gear in here, and there's I think there's some people out there who Major Fitness said, hey, we're just going to send you our entire warehouse of stuff. And so you'll look in these people's gyms and they've got literally like 5 Major Fitness racks in their gym. And as I look at this, and it's cool that you get to see all of that side by side, when I look at those gyms, what I realize is that 4 of those 5 racks, or even 5 of those 5 racks, is completely unusable. You know, they've got one in a corner that's crammed up against the sidewall where you couldn't even rack a barbell on it. They've got the one with the Smith machine up against another wall where there's literally the end of the barbell for the Smith machine is touching the wall. There's no way you're loading a weight on that. They've got another one crammed up against the back wall so that the weight horn storage on the back is completely unusable. And when I talk to people, especially about racks, they don't realize that the measurement of the rack is not the measurement of the space you need. Now, I've got some detailed resources on gymcrafter.com. I'll put links below. I've got an article on how much room you need for a treadmill, how much room you need for a squat rack, and things like that. So I'll link those, like I said. So if you have those questions, or drop me a comment or an email, that's fine too. But let's use racks and treadmills as an example. When you've got a rack and you're gonna rack an 84-inch barbell, you not only need 84 inches, but you need room to safely load plates on the end of that bar. So what a lot of people end up doing is, and I had one person today that I talked to this morning, and they said, hey, I'm gonna put it in an old laundry room, and this is how much room I have. And I said, you understand that you said you've got 86 inches across? And they said, yeah, barbell's only 84 inches, right? Well, yes, but how are you gonna load the plates? He's like, well, you know, the plates that I'm buying are only a couple inches, so I think I can just, so this person's literally planning on like sliding, and they at least thought about it. Most people don't even think about it. But they're looking at sliding. That's not going to work, guys. So what I always recommend is if you're going to get a rack, you not only need 84 inches, you need 18 to 24 inches on either side of that barbell end, because to safely load a plate, and a lot of you experienced fitness people are going, yeah, duh, Tim, I know this. But with as many people as I help build gyms that don't know this, it's important to get this out there. You want to be able to hold the plate at chest level or wherever the post is and slide it straight on and off, not only your barbell, but your weight horn. So like these racks have weight storage on the back. Well, in order to use that weight storage, this rack has to be out so that there's a good 18 to 20 inches between the end of the post and the back wall so that you can go back there and grab a plate and take it on and off. You know, they advertise the RitFit and the Major Fitness for small areas, and a lot of their marketing materials, I see people going, we didn't think we had room for a home gym, but we were able to get all this stuff in this small space. And I look at the small space that it's in and I go, well, it's there, you just can't use it because the weight horns for the pulley system, the cable system, are up against the washing machine and a broom closet, right? So you want to make sure that you're thinking about how much space you're going to need to use the gear, not just to fit the gear. So hopefully that makes sense. That's a huge mistake a lot of people make and unfortunately they don't find out until after they buy the stuff. And even though companies like this have, you know, a 30-day return policy, I promise you, you're not getting it back in the boxes. It's just never going to happen. So the cost to ship these things back is probably equivalent to the cost of buying them. So you want to make sure before you buy that you've got room to use this stuff. A treadmill is another one. I had a lady last week who had called me and she said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this for weights and I want to do this treadmill for cardio. And I said, okay, well, where are you going to put it? And we took a look at her room, and she had found that she'd had this little alcove in her room that was almost the exact size of the treadmill she wanted from front to back. She goes, look, I'll just slide it in there. It's great. The problem with that is that A, nobody uses the safety key on treadmills. And for those of you who are wondering what that is, there's a little key that you're supposed to wear and clip to your clothes so that if you fall, it automatically shuts off the treadmill. Nobody uses those. I've gone to so many commercial gyms, there's not a single person using them. They're all just sitting in the little thing with it's just nobody uses them. So what that means is that if you fall and your treadmill is crammed into an alcove like that, what's gonna happen is you're gonna hit that belt, it's gonna spin you against the back wall, and then it's gonna proceed to grind the skin off of you until you find a way to get off of that thing. I've seen it happen online more than once. It's not pretty. It's gonna leave some serious road rash on you, and it's not safe. So it's important for a treadmill to leave 3 or 4 or 5 feet. And again, I've got an article I'll link below that tells you to leave that space behind so that if something does happen, or if you just need to get off, like I can't imagine having to hop off sideways on a treadmill if all of a sudden you need to get off. This particular person had kids, so if their kids need something and she needs to get off right away, to try and jump off sideways isn't going to be nearly as safe as just rolling off the back of it. Also, in the front of a treadmill, you're gonna need a couple of feet for ventilation. Those motors are going to burn out if they don't have ventilation, especially if you use them for long periods of time. So those are two examples. There's lots of examples. These leg press machines are some where you need room, like the Major Fitness one has this giant weight bar on it. So if you're gonna load it, you need space outside. I think you guys probably get the point by now, so I'll stop giving you examples. But look, plan for the space you need to use the gear, not just fit the gear. That's a big one I run into. The issue I deal with next, and I'm gonna try and not be super snarky about this, although I'll probably fail, is building what I call a matchy-matchy home gym. I get a lot of folks that come to me and they go, I'm gonna build an all rep fitness gym. I'm gonna build an all Titan fitness gym. I'm gonna build an all bells of steel gym. I'm gonna build an all Rogue gym. You get the idea. People want to build everything from one company. They want to wear their Rogue t-shirt out to show that they've got a Rogue gym. And that's awesome. I'm not knocking anybody who does that. But what I am saying is you're missing out by being brand loyal like that. And you're just not going to get the best stuff for your gym. And you're probably going to spend more than you have to. I'm going to give you a couple examples. A lot of people that I talk to want to build, they're already over budget to start with. A lot of people don't have a clue as to what a home gym costs in the first place. And so they start looking at some higher end brands and they land on Bells of Steel or Titan, which that's why those two companies exist, right? They make good quality stuff, kind of middle of the road in a lot of cases, but it's great prices, it's functional, it works great for people. The welds aren't as pretty as they could be. The powder coating is missing some stuff sometimes. But in the end, I loved my Titan rack. It was a great rack. But did I have an entire Titan fitness gym? No. Now, do they sell barbells? Yes, but for the same price as a lot of those Titan barbells, you could buy a Rep Fitness barbell and you would end up with a much better bar. So that's kind of what I'm talking about not getting too brand loyal and being more what I call brand agnostic. Don't get so attached as to the brand of what you're buying. Another good example is bumper plates. When people come to me for gym help, I only recommend two brands of bumper plates right now. I recommend Fringe Sport, and they've got a nice selection. And if you are on a budget, I recommend Living Fit. Living Fit makes some amazingly good bumper plates at really good pricing. There's no reason to spend more than that if you're on a budget. Both of those companies will do great. Now, does Rogue make some amazingly good bumper plates? Sure. And if you want to spend 30, 40, 50% sometimes more on your bumpers, you can have the same brand name on the side of your bumpers as is on the little plate on the back of your rack. But for the most part, if you can be brand agnostic, you're going to get a better gym for less money over the long haul. So that's a really good recommendation in my estimation. Another good example, just because I like talking about them as much as possible, and I have two brand new ones sitting over here waiting to be opened, which is the Rep Fitness benches. I don't think you can get a better bench for your money than Rep. I had a guy who I dealt with last week who was buying a really nice Rogue rack, has the budget, really cool rack that he's building. I'm really envious of this gym that he's building. And he wanted to get the Rogue Man Array. And I said, look, man, come over to my house, try the Blackwing by Rep. It's literally $500 or $700 less. And honestly, it's just as good. In my opinion, it's a little bit better. And he's buying a Blackwing. There's no reason to spend that much extra money so that the brand on the side of your bench matches the brand on the side of your rack. Now, there is one exception to this, and I know a lot of you guys out there who are experienced garage gym people are going, hey, what about this? And that's ecosystems. Rogue is a great example. When you buy a Rogue rack, and for what a lot of people don't understand who aren't doing this all the time, is 1-inch holes are not always 1-inch holes, right? There's at least 2 different sizes of 1-inch holes, and now that I've dealt with some of these brands, there's probably 3 or 4 different sizes of 1-inch holes, and accessories from one brand don't fit another one. So Rogue, once you get into their ecosystem, there's a lot of products that attach to their racks where if you want that product, you're gonna have to get a Rogue, whatever it happens to be. And that's awesome, right? They make great stuff. That's fine. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about getting into an ecosystem of products that work together and are designed to go together. I'm talking about the other stuff. I'm talking about the bars. I'm talking about the plates. I'm talking about the dumbbells. Dumbbells are a great example. Like, you don't need to match your dumbbell brand to your rack or your plate brand. Does Fringe Sport make some good dumbbells? Sure, absolutely. They make some really nice dumbbells. Does Rogue make some nice dumbbells? Sure, they make some great dumbbells. Do the new Rep-In dumbbells probably trump all of those if you're looking for adjustables? Yeah, 100%. So try not to be too brand loyal when you're buying things. There's one more thing, and I'll just put this caveat because I know some of you are typing this comment right now. Country of origin is important to a lot of you guys. Made in the US is important to a lot of people who watch this channel, and I totally get that. And look, Rogue built a lot of their company on that, and good for them. I love that they employ, one of the things I'm gonna be putting up in here is an American flag, because a garage gym is not complete without an American flag, in my opinion, and I am all for that. Does made in America mean by default it's a better quality? No. I have bought some horrifically bad products that were made in the US, and I am recording this on some wonderful products that were made in China. So where stuff is made doesn't necessarily mean that it's good or bad quality, but it does mean that you're supporting one economy over the other. And that's another good reason to stick with one brand. But even then, if you're looking at made in the USA stuff, there's plenty of made in the US type stuff that doesn't have to all come from one company. So don't fall for that either, that it needs to just, we're the only ones who make great made in the USA stuff. Exponent Edge, who I bought a couple of things from recently, all made in the USA stuff, all really good. Clevabuilt's another one, made in the USA, Mutant Metals, Black Widow training gear. There's a lot of companies out there, guys, who build stuff in the US. JD Gym Equipped. I should probably stop listing companies. Maybe we'll do a made in the USA company episode down the road. If you'd like to see that, let me know in the comments. But you can support made in the USA or made in the specific country and still not buy all one brand. So hopefully that makes sense. There's a couple exceptions, like I said, but on the whole, try and be brand agnostic. Look for the stuff that's best for you. And going back to point number one, if you know your why and what you're buying stuff for, you may decide to buy something that meets your specific why, and hey, it's not gonna come from the company that you thought it was gonna come from, and that's great. And this leads to the next one, which is don't fall for marketing. And I'm gonna cover two aspects of this. The first one is marketing by salespeople. I talked to a few people over the last month who wanted to buy stupidly expensive cardio machines because the salesperson at the store convinced them that they needed commercial grade cardio. Guys, unless you are opening a commercial gym, you don't need commercial grade cardio. You don't need a $7,000 Life Fitness treadmill, I promise. What I have to explain to folks all the time is that $7,000 Life Fitness treadmill, and I had somebody who wanted to buy an $8,000 Stairmaster. That Stairmaster is designed to be on nonstop from 6 in the morning till 10 at night, 7 days a week, being constantly run by people of varying weights, by people who don't take care of it, and it has to last. That's why a lot of stuff that Ashton at Freedom Fitness sells as far as his pre-owned stuff is commercial, because it lasts a long time. But as far as buying something new for your home or garage gym, you don't need to buy commercial stuff because the sales dude at the store told you that everything else was gonna break. That's just not the case. When I bought my rowing machine, the first rower that I bought was a water rower. I think it's an $800 rower. Sitting next to it was a $5,000 Nordic Track rower, which by the way was a terrible rowing machine. Don't buy the Nordic Track, it's awful. But that's a good example of don't get sold on buying commercial stuff because you were marketed to by a store or a salesperson. Look at what meets your needs for your use levels, right? So if you know you're only gonna train a couple days a week, then something like this, and that's a great example of, I see a lot of people knock on this major fitness stuff and this RitFit stuff because they train 7 days a week. I train 6 days a week. Is this the right stuff for me? No, I would wear it out really, really quickly. But for somebody who's gonna train a couple of days a week and not lift real heavy, this stuff is perfect for them. So don't let a salesperson talk you into spending more than you need. If you've ever got a question on that, I sold fitness equipment in a retail store for a very long time. I know I keep saying I used to sell stuff in the store. The store I worked in sold pretty much everything. You folks in Chicago familiar with Apt Electronics know what I mean. You don't need this high-end commercial stuff. And that leads me to the second one, which is outside of a store, don't fall for the internet marketing. And I'm gonna dump on a couple of companies because I don't get it. First one is Peloton. Now, first of all, I know a lot of you guys out there have Peloton, you like it, you like competing with your neighbors on the app. And look, first rule of fitness is whatever you use consistently is the winner, right? And if Peloton got you to use this thing consistently, and I've heard a lot of people say, I never worked out consistently until I got a Peloton, that's awesome. That is a great reason to buy a Peloton. But if you're in the market for a good exercise bike or a good spin bike, that's a terrible reason to buy a Peloton. It is a mediocre bike at best. Peloton is a software company that makes mediocre gear. And it'll get the job done, but if you talk to anybody who cycles kind of avidly. I've got a real good friend who does long distance mountain biking. I've got another good friend who does long distance road cycling. And both of those guys will, at every opportunity, will bash the ergonomics of the Peloton bike. It's too upright. The handlebars aren't shaped right. The length of the pedals isn't right. The positioning of the pedals in relation to this, like everything's wrong according to these guys. And they're a little snooty about their bikes, so I'll take that with a grain of salt. If you've ever gotten on one and then you've gotten on go to a good spin class if you're looking at buying a spin bike that's that expensive, and then get on a Peloton and you'll see the difference immediately. So don't fall for the internet marketing. And what I mean by that is, I just said try both, and the thing is, you can't try both. About 95% of you out there can't go try a Peloton anything. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason they don't sell their stuff in stores. Because if you're able to go into a store and try theirs and try almost anybody else's, you would buy anybody else's. And not to mention, they've got one of the most expensive subscription services in fitness. So I think I've dumped on Peloton enough. Like I said, I'm not trying to insult you. If you've got a Peloton and you like it, that's awesome. What I'm trying to say is that there's better stuff as far as the gear goes for less money that you'll enjoy more instead of just falling for the marketing. The other one is tonal. Guys, I'm gonna bet my next 10 paychecks, which being a YouTuber for a living isn't a whole lot of money, so you won't win much if you take me up on that bet, but I guarantee you that LeBron James didn't get in shape using a tonal, doesn't train with a tonal now, doesn't have a tonal in his house, doesn't have a tonal in his gym, and doesn't look at a tonal unless he's getting paid to be in a commercial. That is marketing. They're okay, but there's a reason that their valuation is where it's at. And if you were to compare training on a tonal with just training, even on this RitFit, which is a fraction of the price, I'll take this over the tonal any day of the week. It's just not great, okay? And there's some gimmicky, neat stuff to it. And they've got some stats out there that people's adherence is high. If you've noticed, once the pandemic ended, those stats kind of went away. Well, of course, when everybody's stuck inside and they don't have anything else to do, of course they're going to continue to do it. So just don't fall for the internet marketing. I get a lot of people who contact me and they go, hey, what about this thing that I saw online? What about this thing that I saw in an Instagram ad? And it's like, most of those things aren't worth your money. And wow, did that come out a whole lot more negative than I was planning. So, hey, Professor Positive, what's next? So I'm not gonna dump on anything else, I promise. Can you tell I have some strong feelings about those companies? But anyway, here's the next one I wanna talk about, which is the question, what are you gonna do about cardio? Or what are you gonna do about resistance training? It's shocking to me how many people are building a home gym where they think that that's either gonna be a treadmill and an elliptical or a squat rack and weights, and they never want to do both. I'm going to harp on this a lot for the entire time that I make this podcast, which is you need both. You need resistance training, you need cardio. Now, cardio could be a jump rope if you don't have a lot of room. I'm going to be putting a heavy bag in here because I think heavy bags are just an amazingly good way to do cardio. There's a lot of muscle activation involved. I like my rower a lot. I like going for walks at the dog park, but cardio has got to be part of it, and so does strength training. Strength training is critical to longevity, to long-term health, to being just a healthy, fit, capable individual over time. It's got nothing to do with getting jacked and swole and taking steroids. And I can't tell you the number of reasons people have told me they don't want to lift weights are those, and there's so many misconceptions out there about resistance training, and it's important that you make room in your gym for both. So I don't want to harp on that too much because, like I said, I talk about it a lot, but when you're building a gym, you need room. Remember, we talked about in the first episode, there's 3 things that go into a home gym: space to train, resistance of some type, and an indoor cardio option. You can't count on being able to go outside every time unless you live in certain areas of the country where you're lucky enough to be able to go outside if you live in Santa Barbara, awesome. You can do outdoor cardio all the time. The rest of us, like me here in Chicago, we've got to figure out something to do inside, and that's important. So that's just something I wanted to touch on, which is leave room in your gym for resistance training and for cardio. It doesn't need to be a $7,000 light fitness treadmill. It doesn't need to be a $9,000 Rogue rack setup, but it needs to be something in both of those categories. Here's the next one, and it kind of dovetails with the last one, so we'll just lump these last 2 into the last point. And this is what I ask people a lot. How often are you training now? what does your training look like now? And a surprising number of people say, oh, well, I don't. That's why I'm building a home gym. I've got news for you. I keep track of all of the people. I try and follow up with many people as I can. The number of people who turn their squat rack into a clothes rack in 6 months or less is astonishing. And one of the things that those people have in common is they haven't built the habit of exercising first. Folks, if you're going to spend thousands of dollars building a home gym, don't think that that investment is going to motivate you to continue to work out, because over time you're going to train less and less and less. You have to have your why. Why are you training? We started the whole episode with that. I started this whole podcast on episode 1 with that. And that's a huge reason why. If you want to continue training, you have to have your why. But if you're not training at all now, then my typical recommendation is join a local gym, build a habit for the next 3 to 6 months. And if in 3 to 6 months you're still training every day, then let's talk about building you a home gym. Otherwise, we're probably going to waste your money. And I really think that while there's some exceptions to that, and I know there's a lot of you out there who are going to say, oh, hey, Tim, I didn't work out before, but man, building a home gym made it easy to do with the kids in the house. And wow, that was the thing that really got me going. And there's a lot of stories like that. But I would tell you that you're the exception. You're not the rule. A lot of people think that buying this stuff or building the gym or buying, they see the advertisement for these major fitness. They're like, well, I don't want to make all these decisions. This has everything I needed and I'm just going to buy that. And wow, it looks really cool. And gee, that guy that's using it is jacked. So I could probably get jacked if I do that. That's how I ended up buying 2 Bowflexes, by the way, which will be I've had a couple people ask me for that story. That will be a story for a future episode, just not today. But that's how I ended up buying 2 Bowflexes, because I'm like, well, I don't work out, but gee, if I had one of those in my house, I would work out, right? And I'm sorry, that just doesn't work. Build the habit first. Even if it's just get up and do, 5 sets of 10 push-ups and 50 body weight squats and some pull-ups if you can. Even if that's just get up and go for a half-hour walk in your neighborhood every single day without fail. Build some consistency. Build that training consistency. You're going to find when you can work out that way. You're going to find when you can be consistent, and you're going to build that habit. And then build your gym a little piece at a time. While these things are nice, and it's really cool if you've already got the habit and you're going to work out, to buy an all-in-one gym, it's a really good solution for some people. But if you've never had a home gym before, buy a kettlebell and integrate that into your training. And then when you've used that for a few months consistently, buy another kettlebell, right? Or buy a set of adjustable dumbbells, or buy a yoga mat, or buy a jump rope, or buy one piece at a time and slowly build your gym over time. I was enjoying, there's a YouTube channel that I like to watch called No Fate 24/7. And he just did he got 20,000 YouTube subscribers now. He just did a gym tour. My favorite part of that tour wasn't what he has now. It was the pictures that he showed at the beginning of the pandemic of when he started his home gym, because that's the way you start. He started with an inexpensive set of weights. He started with an inexpensive bench. He started with a minimal setup, and he built up over time as he built that habit. Don't make the mistake a lot of people make of, well, I see all these beautiful $100,000 gyms on YouTube, so you watch Coop's home gym tours, which are fun to watch, right? You watch these guys, you go watch Juji Mufu's gym tour, it's awesome. But unfortunately, that gives a lot of people the impression that a home gym is a squat rack and 3,000 pounds of weights and 15 barbells and a trap bar and a Swiss bar and a Kabuki transformer bar and a sled and you get the idea, right? So build the habit first. And then once you have the habit, if you buy everything at once, you buy it a piece at a time, we could talk about that, but build the habit first if you don't already have the habit. Look, if you go to a commercial gym all the time now and you just want to move that home, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking to the people, and I talk to a lot of them who they think that building this is going to help them work out, and it's not. And this leads me to the last thing, which is something that will really help with that consistency. One of the things that I always include when I help people design a home gym is save $100 for a program written by a professional trainer. Look, Michael Jordan had a coach. LeBron James doesn't have a tonal, but he's got a coach, right? Phil Mickelson's got a coach. Your best athletes and trainers in the world have coaches. Dave Tate, one of the most widely recognized powerlifters and coaches in the world, When he wanted to fix himself, who did he hire? He hired Dr. John Russin to help him. It's a great series on YouTube. It's called Fixing Dave Tate. If you haven't watched it, it's amazing. They then, after they did that, they flipped places and Dave Tate coached John Russin. If you ever want to see how to set up for the three basic movements, deadlift, squat, and bench press, they are the single best instructional videos I've seen on how to set up for those exercises, where Dave Tate coaches John Russin on how to do that. They write programs for each other. It is super important that no matter how much you think you know about physical fitness, whether you're just calling in what your high school football coach told you to do, or whether, look, I follow a lot of guys on Instagram who are amazing. They've been training their whole life, right? And they program for themselves. I promise each and every one of you, if you're programming for yourself, if you go out and you get a coach in your specific type of lifting, you will make better, faster progress. You will learn things you didn't know that you didn't know, right? We don't know what we don't know, and that's what a coach gives you. Another thing that happens when you hire a coach, and I'm partial because I'm a trainer, is they have you do things that are specific to your goals, not what you like to do. I program Bulgarian split squat variations, and I always ramp people up. They don't always start with the full Bulgarian split squat, but all of my clients do those. And if they were programming for themselves, do you know how many people programming for themselves would program Bulgarian split squats? Almost nobody. So when you have a coach and you have a written program, you not only have something that's intelligently designed that's specific to a goal, right? Because you can buy a program that's specific to that why that we started talking about. I want to lose weight. Well, there's programs for that. I want to build strength. Well, there's programs for that. 3 sets of 10 isn't going to get you very far to any of those goals. So when you're building a home gym, leave some room in the budget for professional programming. Now, I'm partial to the MAPS programs by the guys over at Mind Pump. John Russin's programs are awesome. I've done all of his functional hypertrophy training, functional power training. He's got one out called Summer Shred. I'm not affiliated with him. I just think he makes great programming. The Athlete X stuff, again, not affiliated with him. Really solid programming for people in home gyms. There's a lot of stuff out there. Free programs from Instagram only influencers. Please know if the person selling you their program can't put their shirt on and shows half their videos with their butt sticking out, please know I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about programs written by trainers who have trained people in real life and gotten results. So, and if you need help picking a program out, please let me know. On my website, I've reviewed tons of programs. I've run all of them myself. I've reviewed them. I'll be putting out videos for each of those pretty soon, so you'll see those pretty soon. But please, get some professional programming that fits the goal that you're gonna do, and that's really, really gonna help you. I promise that's gonna help you. You know, when I was at Home Gym Con, I watched a strongman competition, and when you watch strongmen, professional strongman competitions, all of those guys have coaches. All of those guys are learning from somebody, and that's really, really important. When Home Gym Con asked and put out, hey, who should we have in 2024? I immediately replied to their survey, please have somebody who does programming, whether that's Renaissance periodization, whether that's the MAPS, the Mind Pump guys, whether that's Athlete X, whether that's a strongman coach, whoever it happens to be. I think that there needs to be programming, needs to be integrated with all of this equipment. Because when you're building a gym, building the gym is one thing, using the gym and getting the results you want is something completely different. And I think that's something that people completely forget. A lot of people, they build their gym and then they come in to work out the first day and go, what should I do? Well, I guess we're gonna bench press, right? So, which there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, so that's as far as the things that were in common this week, I literally had that same conversation. What do you guys think? What are some mistakes that you made when you built your gym? Did you buy too many barbells? Did you spend too much money on something you shouldn't have? Did you realize you could have gone cheap when you went expensive? Did you realize that you should have gone expensive when you went cheap? A lot of people, I make this podcast and make this site in large part for folks who are just starting on their journey for building home gyms. Clearly, I'm sitting in front of a rack that's for those type of people. And I really think that that's an underserved part of the garage gym population, and they're largely ignored. And I really want to provide as much help for them as possible. So for all of you experienced folks out there who have built a garage gym, let me know in the comments. Again, we'll put a pinned comment up so that people can learn from that. But I know the collective wisdom of all of you guys dwarfs even I've helped thousands of people build home gyms through GymCrafter.com, and I know a fraction of what you know. So let me know what we need to tell folks building home gyms so that they can save money, they can avoid mistakes, so that they can start getting results faster. And that, my friends, is it for this episode of the GymCrafter podcast. If you watched all the way to now, I really appreciate it. Make sure you hit the like button. If you watched all the way to now and you didn't like it, you're a little weird, but let me know why. Let me know in the comments what I can do to do better. I know, talk less. I get that. That's probably not going to happen. I found my kindergarten report cards the other day, and guess what they said? Tim is a great student, but he talks too much. So I don't think this is going to change. I'm 53, whatever. And I'm rambling again. So until the next podcast, I appreciate you tuning in. I'm Tim with GymCrafter.